If you guys have not checked out Jake the Aussie Arm Wrestler's podcast, make sure to go do that because today we're only looking at a short clip out of an hour-long live stream. But in the process of Devon talking about his own match against LEVAN, he ended up giving his opinion on ERMES' attempt versus LEVAN. He talked about the technical flow of the match as well as whether or not ERMES could have potentially won that match depending on the rule system at play. Let's take a listen to the clip.
And in the strap, the thing is his arm is holding on, even though he's lost his hand. So ERMES' arm was really what stopped the match. Brilliant arm wrestling. I do believe that LEVAN won regardless of the reffing. ERMES had his shoulder line secured. LEVAN's elbow came off the back. That should have been a running foul. It's very likely that match would have resulted in either LEVAN conceding or getting pinned.
So firstly, let's discuss Devon's take on the technical flow of the match. Devon talks about how ERMES did not achieve a stop through his hand, but he achieved the stop through his arm. ERMES' hand actually ended up failing, but his arm held up. And this is one of the major differences between someone like Devon and someone like ERMES, not only in terms of their pulling style, but also their training style. What we see about ERMES' training is that he has a huge emphasis on back pressure, and when he trains his back pressure, he normally just uses a standard loop over his hand, but he doesn't wrap the loop in such a way as to specifically attack either the pronation or the radial deviation. And this is where he widely differs from Devon. Devon is also primarily an outside arm wrestler, but he does not really ever train direct back pressure. Whenever Devon trains his back pressure, he is never just using the standard loop over the hand, he is always looping the belt over his thumb or over the top of his hand. When Devon does his riser lift, for example, he is still training his back pressure, but his back pressure is not the limiting factor of the lift. His radial deviation is the limiting factor of the lift. So ERMES is training a lift where his back pressure is the limiting factor of the lift, but Devon is training lifts that do incorporate a ton of back pressure, but at the end of the day, the hand and wrist normally ends up being the limiting factor of the lift, not his elbow flexor. And this is honestly a big reason that I am so excited about this Devon versus LEVAN match. We've already seen ERMES do extremely well against LEVAN, all things considered. His insane back pressure did allow him to get a stop. Devon, on the other hand, has significantly less back pressure, but a stronger hand. So I think this match will tell us a lot about which thing is more important, elbow flexion or hand and wrist strength. One of the things about back pressure is that it often can compensate for a lack of hand strength. Using side pressure or down pressure in a match is simply fighting your own ability to bend your wrist, but using a rocking style back pressure can actually make it easier to bend your wrist. Devon's training seems to reflect a weakest link in the chain philosophy, or in other words, your back pressure is only as good as your hand is. But because of the biomechanics of a rocking back pressure, I'm not totally convinced that that is the case. All of this being said, I'm sure that if you ask Devon, he would agree that ERMES' back pressure lift has huge relevance to arm wrestling, and I don't want to make it sound like that wouldn't be the case. But simply from my perspective of seeing Devon always opting for a pronation back pressure lift over a more traditional back pressure lift like ERMES, I think there has to be a reason for that. And I'm super excited to see the result from Devon's training style and then compare that to the result from ERMES' training style.